Concern about China's growing influence in Asia has spilled over into Taiwan. The governments in Beijing and Taipei have gotten a lot closer lately, even though China says Taiwan's a renegade province and most Taiwanese want to keep separate from the mainland. Over the past couple of years, though, Taiwan's ruling Kuomintang party has signed a slew of commerce and tourism agreements with China. But a new deal is causing problems. Several hundred students stormed Taiwan's legislature. They want President Ying-jeou to apologize for the trade pact and scrap what they say is an incomplete legislative review of the deal. They are worried about China's growing economic influence in the island. The deal would allow around 80 different kinds of industries, from banking to e-commerce, to operate on both sides. The students say the deal wasn't properly debated. They're also worried about increased competition from mainland students for spots in Taiwan's universities. The Philippines also lays claim to parts of the South China Sea. The latest flare-up occurred on a flyspeck called the Second Thomas Shoal. It's part of the Spratly Islands. Back in 1999, Filipino Marines occupied an old transport ship they'd run aground on the shoal. China, which claims the shoal and calls it the Renai Reef, wants the Marines off and recently stopped a supply ship from bringing supplies to the Philippine garrison. The confrontation appears to have sped up talks on an agreement to allow U.S. forces to have a greater presence in the Philippines. To tell us what all this means, we have Richard Heydarian with us on Skype. Heydarian is a political analyst and professor at Ateneo de Manila University. Thanks for coming on the program.
Happy to be here.
Let's start at square one. Where is the shoal in relation to the Philippines and to China?
Yes, the shoal falls within roughly 150 miles from the nearest Philippine coastlines. So in that sense, it's tremendously close to the Philippines. But the distance that the shoal has from the nearest Chinese coastline is almost twice that. And more than that, the Second Thomas Shoal is very close to the hydrocarbon-rich area off the coast of Palawan, the southeastern province of the Philippines. And that is why this is also a very sensitive issue. It's not only a territorial issue, but apparently it's also an issue of economic resources.
So back to geography now. Under the UN's Law of the Sea Treaty, doesn't the Philippines then have a stronger claim to this reef because it's closer?
Yes, I mean, a conventional interpretation of the provisions of the UNCLOS would say that the Second Thomas Shoal should clearly fall within the Philippines jurisdiction, specifically the 200 nautical miles exclusive economic zone that the Philippines should exercise over the Second Thomas Shoal. So in that sense, the law is definitely on the side of the Philippines, and that is why the Philippines is trying to use an international arbitration actually to make sure that the Chinese do not overrun their position in the Second Thomas Shoal. So
it seems to have a pretty good case here. What about this defense agreement with the U.S.? Both governments say the new agreement will not mean permanent American bases, just access. Now, that's an important distinction because the Philippines Constitution forbids any foreign bases. Where is public opinion on this issue?
I think the public opinion is increasingly shifting in favor of greater American military rotational presence in the Philippines. As you correctly pointed out, there are constitutional restrictions against a permanent U.S. base here in the Philippines. So we cannot have what we used to have during the Cold War period, which ended in 1992. But what we can have is, on a rotational basis, an increased presence of American military hardware, submarines, warships, and even American troops visiting here on a rotational presence. And I think this is something that more or less can fall within the Philippine constitutional provisions, and at the same time public opinion is shifting in its favor.
So do you think this agreement is necessary? Otherwise China will ride roughshod over the Philippines' claims?
The conventional view among top Filipino policymakers is that given the trajectory of China's territorial posturing in the South China Sea, it is just a matter of time that the conflict could break out between the two countries because of the supposed creeping invasion of China of territories claimed by other neighboring countries in the South China Sea. And given the Philippines' complete lack of even minimum deterrence capabilities, for them, it is inevitable that the Philippines will have to rely on external partners. And the United States is definitely the top ally that the Philippines can rely upon.
All right, Richard, thank you. Always nice to have your perspective. Richard Heydarian is a political analyst and scholar specializing in the Philippines. You can learn more about him on our experts page. Growing frustration over the mystery of Malaysian Airlines Flight 370. 2 weeks after the plane disappeared on an overnight flight from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing, there's more wild speculation about what happened than hard facts. And Malaysia's getting heat from cities who charge officials are withholding information. Here's part of a briefing given by Malaysia's defense minister.
I can confirm that we have received some radar data, but we are not at liberty to release information from other countries. I appeal to all our partners to continue volunteering any of and all information that could help us with the investigation and the search for MH370.
Most of the 239 people aboard Flight 370 are Chinese, and their relatives are getting impatient. At the briefing, some shouted their anger. Outside, they vented at a Malaysian Airlines official.
Indeed, us family members have a lot of anger, mainly targeted at the Malaysian side. As we can all see, the Malaysian government has constantly released some information and then denied it, and the information was not consistent. However, when it comes to the Chinese government, we are relatively satisfied.
Some of the 24 countries involved in the search are unhappy with Malaysia, too. They had scoured the South China Sea for days, even though Malaysian radar showed the plane had veered away, crossed over the Strait of Malacca, and flew into the vast Indian Ocean.
Now on U.S. airwaves, a global channel of uncompromising stories. World news, documentaries, entertainment, and culture. Link TV, connecting you to the world. For more information, visit linktv.org.